batata bafire banshira n'ekirimba iyo batata bafire ine banshira n'ekirimba abatibura katonde taito ni mwana wandi ine nalafa mwana wandi ndekushira ekirimba ukasharyo ukarendira taito ni chuma wangoma taito ni chuma nyangoma taito ni rira bawishi taito ni chuma nyangoma taito rira batata taito ni chuma wangoma taito barira muchirimba taito ni chuma nyangoma taito rira batata taito ni chuma wangoma taito tata ba mateni taito ni chuma wangoma taito.
Chief Muvanga is a traditional ruler of the Bemba people in northern Zambia. His ancestors came from the Zaire kingdom of Mwata Yambwa and crossed the Luapula River into Zambia nearly 4 centuries ago. Until the end of the 19th century, the Bemba people were almost completely cut off from the outside world. They had developed into an independent community with its own internal administration. The office of chief or ruler bore almost unlimited powers. He was a war leader, judge supreme, and lawgiver to his people. The Bemba believed that a great spirit lived in him, giving him magical powers like a lion. In recent years, there has been a change in the status and duties of chiefs. Today, they still act as rulers, but they do so in the framework of a national constitution under the direction of the central government. If the chiefs have survived in the development of modern Zambia, many of the old crafts and customs have perished. The craft of cotton spinning and weaving on hand looms would have died out 25 years ago. But for the fact that the Bemba insists on hand-woven cotton for the burial sheets of its paramount chief. From the seeds of wild shrub, raw cotton was collected. The spindle which turned the cotton into thread was made of wood or the hip bone of an animal. Every one of these old craftsmen is also a true artist. When he dies, the country loses a part of its cultural heritage. If no one is trained to succeed him, the craft will disappear, and Zambia will have lost a precious thing that cannot be replaced. In olden days, while parents worked in the fields, children were left at home in the villages with the hens and the dogs in the care of the old people. To amuse themselves, children made up games and musical plays that have come down to us from past ages and are to be found in all parts of the country. As people move from the country to large towns, many forget these games. We must find some way of keeping them alive. They form part of our own special Zambian culture. Many of the plays imitate the nature and actions of animals and insects of the bush. These young boys are imitating the wild pig, which roots up the earth to find worms. Some plays tell a story or carry a message. Girls imitate the movements of a woman using a grinding stone. They sing, "We're getting thin. Our quick movements give us no time to eat." It is first-class physical exercise.
You see, I brought quite a lot of old things, Zambian things. I found that in your villages. And you children, you should know all these things. So now I will pick up one thing. And if you know it, I will give you one ngwe. So let us start now. Let us take this. Can you tell me what it is? Yes. No, it's not a location. It's not a hoe. Yes, but no, not at all. That lesson, you can't know that. Even your fathers probably know that. They call that chisumpi. The chisumpi, it is a very big arrow for killing elephants. Imagine they were making a trap. They fixed that at the bottom of a beam, and the beam, when fell down in the neck of the elephant died. So, chisumpi, that's very rare. What is this? Have you an idea what it is? Yes? Anyway, Lisa. Very good. No, that is very good. So you see, he found it himself. That's very nice. Now.
Father Jacques Corbeil is a French-Canadian white father missionary.
Yes.
He first came to Zambia in 1943 and became deeply interested in the Bemba culture. Since then, he has combined his missionary work with an extraordinary effort to preserve that culture. He teaches the young people their own cultural heritage, of which they know so little. He shows them an object that their ancestors used and offers them a coin if they can tell him what it is. Too few of them earn the coin.
Chimpeta. Chimpeta. It is a war trumpet. When they were fighting in the old time, an old man was giving the warning to the people. Listen. So the women pick up their children and they rush in the bush. And the men, with their bow and arrows, they went for the fight. Abanguni Vaisha. It was to give a warning.
In 1956, at the Molilansolo Mission Station in Isoka district, Father Corbeil began to gather African artifacts. Over the years, they have grown into the finest collection of its kind in the world. His missionary work took him on long journeys to visit outstations in the bush. He often traveled 150 kilometers on foot on a 2-week tour. With another priest, he began to introduce African hymns and drum music into church services. In this, he was following the age-old policy of the church to encourage all nations to express their worship of God in their own ways. Today, throughout Zambia, can be seen and heard the results of the work. It will take a long time to develop African church music, but Father Corbeil's deep understanding of his people made it possible for him to take the first steps towards that goal. Father Corbeil's aim was to collect every kind of object used by the tribe. Many people were too shy to speak of their tribal life. They seemed to be afraid that he would laugh at them. So at first, they told him very little. Gradually, they began to realize that he really admired their culture. They showed and explained to him how the needs of life were supplied by simple handicrafts. For clothing, some tribes used the skins of wild animals, but the Bemba used cotton and bark cloth made from the bark of certain trees. Mr. Nkola is one of the few surviving craftsmen who can make bark cloth. The trees most suitable are muombo, ngansa, ngalati, and the most commonly used mutala. He carefully chooses a tree and will cut a large square from its trunk. Sometimes a branch is cut and brought to the village for preparation. The rough outer surface is removed with an adze. The inner bark is stripped. The bark is still too hard and will crack, so it is left soaking in a river all night to soften it. If the river is too far away, the bark is wrapped in wet grass and left in the shade of a hut. Next day, the craftsman pounds the soft wet bark with an iron or wooden mallet called nsolo or chipanda. This stretches the bark and completes the preparation of it. An amazing variety of objects were made from bark: clothes, blankets, robes, boxes, ramps to carry babies on their mothers' backs, bags for holding snuff and tobacco, bins for beans and groundnuts, and sheaths for knives. The need to make bark cloth has disappeared. Factory-made clothing is more lasting than bark and comes in greater variety. New materials replace the old, and the ancient craft dies. At the end of the 19th century, Father Dupont, a white father missionary from France, came to Zambia. He was later appointed bishop. Working among the Bemba, he became friendly with Chief Mwamba. One day, as Bishop Dupont was on his knees beside the dying Mwamba, giving him medicine, the chief said, "When I die, you'll receive my succession. You'll become the next Mwamba." He had a fiery temper, and he was given the nickname Moto Moto, the Kiswahili word for fire. As a monument to this man, Father Corbeil has called his collection the Moto Moto Museum. It contains artifacts from all the known periods of Zambian past. Stone tools of early man were found by young boys who swam to the bottom of a pool just above Kalambo Falls. In Zambia, the Iron Age began 2,000 years ago, when the Bantu peoples came to the country from the general direction of Zaire. They depended on iron tools to cultivate their fields and to preserve their way of life. Every village had its own blacksmith. Even today, they can be found in most villages, but now they use scrap iron, old bicycle frames, and metal pipes as the raw material for new hoes, axes, and spears. Father Corbeil learnt about the finished products, as well as the technical methods used by African artisans, such as potters, wood carvers, and blacksmiths. Mr. Kafwanda works with traditional tools on pig iron from an old furnace to show the ancient method of working iron. He uses the imbwe or nkama to beat the pig iron into a rough shape. This unpolished hoe is called a lukasu lwa chankwa. The katotwa, a hammer, the shape of which shows Portuguese influence, is used to polish and shape the hoe. Finally, the lukasu, the completed hoe. It is twice the size of a modern hoe. With this, a man could buy himself a bride. Today, it's easier to buy factory-made goods, and not many young men are interested in learning the secrets of such craftsmen. Hundreds of different articles were made from iron. The earliest pillows used by Zambians were the skulls of their enemies, or pieces of wood. The early traders brought the T-shaped headrest, still used in some villages. Smoking was a favorite pastime among early Bemba. Before the introduction of tobacco, they smoked wild leaves and wood. Pipes were made from stone, clay, wood, metal, and gourds. They were made in many shapes and sizes, and often were brightly decorated with iron and copper ornaments. This bubble pipe is water-cooled. Leaves were used for making medicines and poisons. For toothbrushes, they used twigs, small branches, and leaves. Modern chemical analysis has found that these are effective cleaners and do prevent decay of teeth. The collection includes cosmetics, jewelry, and various aids to beauty and hygiene favored by African women. A small hand drill was used to bore holes in ivory and in coral shells brought by traders from the Indian Ocean. Zambia is a land of many peoples, many tongues and customs, but above all, it is a land of music. Throughout Zambia, there is a great variety of music. The musical instruments are many and varied. They are rattles and bells. In olden days, the very young were introduced early to musical sounds. To encourage them to walk, bells were tied to their legs. Mommy could work. The bell told her all was well. With wings of insects and the reeds cut into pieces, the young musician entertains his friends. The gourd or calabash grows well throughout the country. It is easily made into a musical instrument, or a bottle, a ladle, a bowl, a platter, or a container for fat, salt, milk, or beer. Before the arrival of Europeans in the country, Africans had already discovered all the main types of sound-producing instruments used by Western musicians. They may be less complicated, but they produce beautiful sounds. The death of every old musician robs Zambia of a library of music. If this is not to be lost, we must immediately make a permanent record of the knowledge of such people. There are 8 different kinds of limba, of which the kalimba is the most widespread in this part of the continent. Its range can vary from 8 to 14 notes. All the world associates drums with Africa, but very few know the wide range of sounds they produce.
I start collecting, and quickly I had the ambition to collect everything, even royal things, royal symbols, royal drums. One day I saw this talking drum, and I want to save it for the future generation. But the chief refused. I offered a lot of money. It was no question of it. I sent even teachers who explained to the chief why I want it. I want to save it. In 1960, an old man advised me to marade the drum. Imagine, to marade it. So I just follow the custom. I sent a young man with 26, the engagement price at that time. And at my surprise, the chief accepted. It was in 1960. I had to wait up to 1966 to pay the dowry, £5, to get the Lunkumbi, which is my third wife. And it is the way I save all these 5 talking drums, and in a way, they are my wives.
Alipita pia Isa, abangoni ba Isa, ba Muchime, twarasa pokwa Icharo, Edesha Isa, Naule Edesha.
Only a chief or someone of royal lineage could possess talking drums. The Bantu languages are tonal, that is, the meaning of each syllable depends on the pitch at which it is spoken. A good drummer could almost make his drum speak in words and sentences by varying the strength and placement of his tapping. Vachali is one of the few masters of the art. Talking drums can be heard 25 kilometers away. Messages can be relayed by other drums, 160 kilometers in a day. The method is seldom used now, but for centuries it was the quickest means of communication in the bush. Stringed instruments have been known and used by African musicians for hundreds of years. The ipango is a 6-stringed lyre. In the weapons section of the museum are objects dating from the Stone Age up to colonial times. These include many different types of bows and arrows, spears and harpoons, hunting knives, flint guns, homemade gunpowder and gunpowder horns, bullets and bullet bags made of elephant ear hide. The art section contains wood carvings, pottery, beaten plaques and paintings. Many items have geometric lines on stone, horn, wood, iron and copper. These lines have a meaning. On the sheath of a hunting knife, the lines represent a snake, which encircles and protects the female while she is on her eggs. It reminds married people that infidelity is forbidden. Father Corbeil is the only man to have seen the complete initiation ceremony of young Vemba girls. He has been given sacred symbols used in initiation ceremonies. Out of respect for tribal custom, he does not allow them to be filmed. To help people to understand the old traditions, he goes on tour to trade fairs and agricultural shows. He lectures in secondary schools and at the National University. In 1967, he brought a part of his collection to Canada for exhibition at the World Trade Fair, Expo 67. Father Corbeil has saved the culture of tribes north of Kapiri-Mposhi, especially the Vemba. If we do not collect and preserve the old cultural traditions of the many tribes in Zambia, these will be lost and forgotten forever. Like all countries, Zambia has accepted the benefits of modern technology. But unlike other countries, she has neglected her own culture and even seems to be ashamed of it. We must realize, as other nations do, that our national culture is a precious heritage. It must be preserved.
You see how it goes? Just like this. It's very, very, very nice, and it's an old thing. Why shibanani, chinchichi, what's that? Ubutabois? Ubutabois? Guampande, very good. Later, Lusengo.